Long queues at American airports, thousands of unpaid federal workers surviving on food banks. The longest government shutdown in US history has left millions without essential services. So can both sides in Congress compromise and reopen the government? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the programme. I'm Bernard Smith. 37 days and counting. America's longest government shutdown is becoming more painful by the day. 40 million Americans are now struggling to get food. More than 1 million federal workers haven't been paid, and flights are getting disrupted. Congress is locked in a standoff over a bill to fund government services, with Democrats demanding an extension to tax credits that make health insurance cheaper for millions of Americans and an end to cuts to federal agencies. Democrats won decisive victories in state and local elections this week. President Donald Trump is blaming the shutdown for the setback. So, will he now be willing to negotiate? Can the two sides agree on a compromise? We'll put that to our guests shortly. First, this report from Dmitry Medvedenko.
The US government has never been closed for business for this long. It means 1.2 million federal workers are not getting paid, and all sorts of services are suffering as a result, from airport security and air traffic control to emergency food benefits.
You can send off a lot of huge problems. People have to eat. That's like squeezing people's neck, putting your foot on their neck.
President Donald Trump, who hasn't met with congressional Democrats since September 29th, says it's their fault.
We are in the midst of a disastrous Democrat-created government shutdown, and it is Democrat-created, but I don't think they're getting really the blame that they should. That's now officially the longest shutdown in American history.
The dispute? Republicans want to pass a budget that reopens the government, but doesn't include tax credits for people who use the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare. Democrats say the credits make this health insurance affordable, and if they're not included, they won't vote to reopen the government. With polls suggesting Americans blame Republicans for the shutdown, and with Tuesday's Democratic victories in state and local elections, congressional Democrats say it's time for the White House to talk.
When they see that Trump doesn't want to help them with health care or paying for food for needy people, but sending $20 billion to Argentina and saying his most important thing he can do is tear down the wall in the White House, they say, what the heck is going on with this guy? Leader Jeffries and I, this morning, demanded that Donald Trump sit down and meet with us to address the health care crisis.
Republicans say Democrats don't have the leverage they think they have.
Republicans know there's no prize for the milestone we've hit today. No one wins in a government shutdown. We pray that Democrats wake up to that truth very soon. We are very hopeful that they will come to their senses and help us to reopen the government.
For now, Republicans and Democrats appear content to hold their ground, and it's not clear yet if there's any sort of compromise that both parties could tout as a win for their side. Dmitry Medvedenko, Al Jazeera for Inside Story.
All right, let's bring in our guests. They're all joining us from where the action is in Washington, D.C. We have Mark Pfeifle, a Republican strategist and former White House Deputy National Security Advisor. Jeremy Mayer, a political analyst and professor of political science at George Mason University. And David Bolger, a Democratic strategist and a former campaign communications advisor. A warm welcome to you all. David, I'll start with you if I can to set the scene, particularly for our non-US based viewers. What is the main issue behind this shutdown?
Well, thank you for having me. I am in a very good position than I was 48 hours ago. So I'm pretty pleased that the election has put me on your out to your viewers. What is happening here essentially is the Republicans are running away from their responsibility. For 37 days, the U.S. government has been closed, with just essential workers working. What does that mean? Well, that means that certain services aren't going to be provided to people. You have hundreds of thousands of federal employees who are not receiving paychecks, or some of whom are working. And it's entirely a government shutdown. How did that happen? Well, the Republicans control the House, they control the Senate, they control the White House, and to a certain extent, I think they even control the judiciary branch. Sure. So what does that mean? Well, that means they're responsible. If they are trying to foist this on the Democrats because of the 60-vote requirement in the Senate, that's just inside baseball, as we say. So This is really about what the Democrats have wanted to do is make sure those healthcare tax credits were available instead of expiring. The Republicans don't want to renew the tax credit. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, has no interest in renewing the tax credits. And so they're trying to sucker the Democrats into a decision about, let's pass this clean bill, supposedly, and then we'll talk about the tax credits for healthcare. That's not going to work. And Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries in the Senate and House, respectively, are holding strong.
Okay. Well, Mark, is it as David says it, the Republicans not behaving responsibly?
Well, I can't say that Republicans are behaving responsibly. I think that both sides are acting like children at this point. The Democrats made a bet. They thought they would be in charge of the three parts of government that my fellow guest David talked about. They thought that they would have Hakeem Jeffries as the Speaker, Chuck Schumer as the head of the Senate, and Kamala Harris, the U.S. president. All three of those things, of course, went south 1 year ago. And their bet was that this Obamacare reauthorization that is running out could be easily passed. Unfortunately for the Democrats, it's the Republicans that are in charge right now. And you have the Democrats just spoiling for a fight. And Donald Trump, when he hears the word fight, he goes, where and how can I get involved? And therefore, we're kind of in this terrible situation right now over Obamacare, which I have no great love for. I lost my doctor, lost my health insurance, and my rates went up. But in the end of the day, millions of people, as you talked about in your report, and that David did as well, are hurting right now because of this lack of potential health care, and more specifically, the food and grocery requirements such as SNAP, which is empty right now in many accounts. And really, we're in a terrible situation as a country. And this is very dissettling and very disheartening as an American, as a Washingtonian, and as somebody who wants its government to operate as efficiently as possible.
Jeremy, who do you analyse bears the responsibility for the bulk of the responsibility for this shutdown?
Well, I think it is both parties, but I give more blame to the Republicans because they do have a lot more power. It is true that the Democrats have the ability to stop things in the Senate, and that's technically why we're in the shutdown. But every other shutdown in modern American history, there was something that we don't see today, and that is negotiations. President Trump brands himself as the great negotiator, and as your package said, he has not met with the Democrats since late September. So that's what's truly unusual about the shutdown, is they are exactly where they were on the day the shutdown began. No progress.
David, do Democrats believe that the voters are behind them on efforts to secure cheaper healthcare?
Well, anytime you get in the discussion of healthcare and certain costs and everything, it's like reading a pharmaceutical ad you find in newspapers and magazines. It's the mice type, and it's too intricate. What they do understand, though, is the fact that prices are going up, that everything is related. Yes, the purpose of the Democrats' ire has been on healthcare and Obamacare, these subsidies, but it carries over to shutting down the government, which now we have more and more problems that have been highlighted. And that's what they understand. They understand gas prices. They understand food prices going up. And they understand also that the president of the United States is holding some great Gatsby-like Halloween parties. He's also building a $300 million ballroom to the White House when they didn't need it. And I think there's a bathroom involved in the Lincoln bedroom, too. So that's what they understand. And this is becoming more and more clear, especially after Tuesday with these midterm elections, these non-midterm elections in the state of Virginia and New Jersey and in New York City in the mayor's race that all went for the Democrats. I mean, it was a sweep, essentially. So that's what I think the American public is seeing in our daily news coverage.
Okay, so Mark, the optics of President Trump's recent events to one side, do Republicans fear the sort of sticker shock of seeing the impact of not extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits? They started rolling again for them on the weekend, on Saturday.
I think that the challenge is that David hit it on the nose, is that it's very complicated. The healthcare is a mess in the United States because you have everything from big hospitals to big drugs to big insurance and now big government. But the challenge is that there's not a majority in the United States Congress of Republicans who have any clear plan to actually fix it. So in light of lack of a plan, let's shut the government down and argue about it. And to go back to David's point, that's right. Donald Trump has the bully pulpit. It was used effectively in the first shutdown that we all remember when we were young people in politics of Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich. And Bill Clinton would go to the podium every day. He would make an announcement about how it's the Republicans' fault. It's Mr. Gingrich's fault. And he won that battle because he had message discipline. And that is something that Mr. Trump is not an aficionado of. He spends multiple hours every day talking to media, having news conferences, having pull-asides on Air Force One before he gets on to Marine One. He has cabinet meetings in which he brings the press in for multiple hours. But what he doesn't have is any ability to actually focus on, here's his message, let's blame Democrats for this. Instead, it's everything under the sun, from attacking Nigeria to attacking Venezuela to good things like Middle East peace and other activities. But I think that's Trump's real problem is that when we go back to this election that we had 1 year ago, it was crazy, Donald Trump versus empty Kamala Harris, and America, they chose chaos. And this is kind of what the unfortunate thing that they reap from it is a president who is working hard. He does a lot of things, but it's not necessarily going in the direction that I think a lot of Republicans in the United States House and Republican leaders would want him to go into.
All right, Jeremy, straight out of the block earlier, Mark made reference to those Democratic victories earlier this week in New Jersey, New York and Virginia. Does that mean the Democrats feel the momentum is behind them now, and that might help them to force Republicans, to force Trump to the table to resolve the shutdown?
Well, it might work out that way, and if it does cause negotiations, I think it will be a good thing. But I don't think Democrats are right to be confident about these elections and the shutdown lasting into the midterms. The midterms are a year away, and let's recall that in 2021, the Republicans won these off-year elections, and they thought, oh, wow, we're going to sail into 2022 and win everything, and they wildly underperformed. So Tuesday's elections are great news for the Democrats. They should celebrate these victories, but they should not exaggerate the long-term implications.
And I guess, David, is that the case? Because do Democrats risk milking these victories too much and prolonging the shutdown? There are people really suffering, millions of people really suffering as a consequence of what's going on.
Definitely. I think I've been a part of a number of successful winning campaigns, and I have an equal stack of losing campaigns. And I know that I agree with the commentator's statement there that, we should not rest on our laurels. The Democrats need to, well, first of all, Donald Trump is the gift that keeps on giving. He, a month ago, no one knew about the $300 million ballroom that he was building. What's next? I've always been talking about the focus should be on cryptocurrency, not all this other stuff, and the fact that the Trump administration or the Trump family are trying to benefit from this. So the Democrats we need to celebrate and congratulate all the victors, but realize that we've got 12 months before for the midterm elections, and we need to make the best of it and essentially going after the facts. And the mandate pretty much on Monday was about the economy. And as James Carville, a former Clinton ally of mine, often says, it's the economy, stupid.
Yeah, well, Mark, you're nodding away there. Trump himself, he's acknowledged that the shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republicans. How do the Republicans want to resolve this?
I think what the Republicans have to do is start focusing on the economy. I think that, yes, the president should very much focus on trade with China, should very much focus on finding an end to Ukraine's war with Russia and Vladimir Putin's attacks, continue this kind of very fragile ceasefire in Gaza. But instead of just rhetoric and claiming credit for things, he's really got to roll up his shirt sleeves and get things done when it comes to the economy. Find ways to bring those kitchen table issues to home, lower inflation, bring prices down, focus on actual fixes that the American people need. And I think that's something that probably he's working on, but you just don't see it at this point. People don't see it when they get their insurance bill in the mail or they go to the grocery store with a cart filled with food. That's the difficulty right now. I kind of go back to Trump's speech at the funeral of Charlie Kirk some weeks ago. And Mrs. Kirk, Erica Kirk, said she forgave her enemies, specifically the killer of her husband. And Mr. Trump, when he had his opportunity to talk about leadership, he said, "I hate my opponents." And I think that kind of talks about why we're here today, is that he does not meet with Schumer or Jeffries or the Democratic leaders. He's spoiling for a fight. And the Democrats, in many ways, they need one. They're unpopular. Republicans are unpopular. Democrats are unpopular. But will we have that moment like we could have before in previous generations of Republicans and Democrats to actually sit down, negotiate, maybe turn the cameras off, leave them. Sorry for my friends and journalists, but leave them outside the room and really sit down and figure out some solutions. And that's what we need.
Well, Jeremy, following on from what Mark's saying there, flights are being cancelled or delayed. Troops may not get paychecks if this continues. Food assistance money is running out. Who will get the blame for this in the end, in those sides spoiling for a fight?
So again, we're all thinking about 1995 when Clinton convinced America the shutdown was the Republicans' fault and he quote unquote won. But most other shutdowns, while the Democrats win, the advantage doesn't last. So how is this going to end? It's going to end two ways. One is the president's going to convince the Republicans in the Senate to end the filibuster. I agree with the president, the filibuster should be killed. And that would end it, and the president and the Republicans would declare themselves victory and would probably jump in the polls. The other way is the president can just do what every president did from 1884 to 1980 and say, okay, Congress hasn't passed a budget, we'll just keep the government going. Shutdowns are relatively new in American political history, and they come from one attorney general under Carter reinterpreting a 100-year-old law. Well, Trump could have his attorney general reinterpret it another way, and then he really looks like the victor. He can point to Congress like all authoritarians do and say, they bicker, I lead, I alone solved this problem. And I think those two ways are where we get it out. It's likely that the Republicans are going to win this shutdown.
Jeremy, you are our professor of political science, so for our foreign viewers, just give us a quick 101 on what the filibuster is and quickly why you also agree with Trump on this.
So the filibuster is a way of delaying action in the Senate until a supermajority agrees to move forward. And so a coalition of as few as 41 senators can stop everything on action on a bill until they get what they want. And that is why we have this shutdown. It is not in the Constitution. It's from 1802. It's been in the Senate rules that long, but it's been changed many times in its history. And I think it's from an ancient era in American politics when you actually had very weak decentralized parties. We now have parties that are closer to a parliamentary system, and the system is breaking down, particularly in the US Senate. So it's an outmoded, anachronistic institution that President Trump and I agree it should be killed.
David, there isn't much appetite, though, is there, for ending this outmoded, anachronistic institution, as Jeremy would characterise it, is there?
There is not, and Jeremy, I think, was rather succinct in his description of that. Unfortunately, the American voter, I think, doesn't have the time or understanding to go back to 1802 to really understand what is going on in the fall of 2025. Now, let me add here. I think that this is all political, as is Washington. And there has to be the Trump administration, specifically the president, he has a real opportunity here. He could sit down and essentially say, do a bill, do the benefits, shut Chuck Schumer up, and I'll sign the bill. So if he stands at the podium and says, I've resolved this, I got the parties together, I, as he typically does, I think the American people would say, "Oh, he solved it. He signed the bill. It's his word on that, his signature on that. He'll get the credit." I think the Democrats need to make sure that they have a TikTok, not a TikTok in the social media, but the step by step of what has really happened over the last 37 days.
All right, Mark, what are Republicans counting on to weaken Democratic resistance?
They're just trying to see for who cries uncle first, who falls in the game of chicken, and they're hoping that the Democrats do that. I think that the professor's ideas are outstanding. I think that the challenge is that in this world of a lack of attention span, of quick sound bites, of artificial intelligence, disinformation, the real TikTok, that is running our lives right now, it's very difficult to get a message out coherently. And Mr. Trump likes a victory. He loves a parade. Maybe he will see that this is his time to find that solution and put the people back to work and give people the benefits that they need to continue on with their lives.
Jeremy, who does the public blame for the shutdown at the moment? And does it have an effect on their long-term sort of regard of how they regard how the government works, whatever hue it is?
So consider the last shutdown. It was entirely Donald Trump's fault. He told us that. That was the world record holder for our shutdowns until this one. And a year later, it didn't matter at all. It is not why he lost in 2020 at all. And I don't think shutdowns get winners. Right now, the Democrats are winning the shutdown in the polls. Most people blame Trump and the Republicans, not by that much. But at the same time, the Democrats are less popular than the Republicans when you ask the generic poll. Trump is now about 43% approval. More people disapprove. But he can live at 35% approval, 33%, because his impassioned base love him so much. He has a very high floor of public support because they won't leave him if he kills someone on TV.
David, what might bring this to an end? What might bring us to a resolution of this?
Well, I think what's happening now is the election, the jubilation of the Democrats who've won in three major states, and California too for the referendum. But it's becoming I mean, you look today, the air traffic control is going to be decreased by 10%. I mean, that is huge. That is going to cause a tremendous amount of anxiety as we lead up to the largest travel time of the year for Americans, which is Thanksgiving. So they better resolve this a week. Right now, the target is the Republicans. I mean, they're the ones who are in charge, and they're not doing their jobs. And it's becoming what's happening now after 37 days. It is becoming household issues, not on the issue of Obamacare, but on the issue of the overall economy.
Well, Mark, it was last time in December 2018, it was air traffic controllers calling in sick that helped bring an end to the last shutdown. Is it something as potentially mundane, as practical as that is going to force resolution this time round too?
I think that's right. And then if you add the holiday season and traveling and going to see your family member, as well as food lines in your local community and just hearing from one's neighbors. And that's the problem, is that there are real solutions and huge problems in our country. And we should be looking at why these individuals are on food stamps. Why can't we get a percentage of them with jobs and with a future and with training and with education? Why can't a government operate effectively, even if we're this polarized, in a way that can at least get us moving forward with government as usual, even if both sides don't get an absolute victory out of it? For the goodness of America and for our futures, we should sit down and have that conversation, as we did in previous political generations, whether it's Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan or even Newt Gingrich or Bill Clinton. They had to. They realized that. But I think in this polarized world, with a lack of soundbite-driven world, that people are not as connected as we once were, that's the problem we have.
All right. And Jeremy, so with this polarized world, what might bring this to a conclusion, do you think?
Oh, I agree that when the pain gets great enough, that's what will move Trump to solve this by himself. I don't agree with David that he'll want negotiations, because he knows that'll look like concessions and losing. He is a man who has a machismo, an idea of strength in a very simplistic, childlike way. And he'll want that parade, as Mark said, and that parade will be about him solving this all by himself. And I think it will momentarily increase his popularity. But your viewers should know a shutdown is terrible for government for months. These workers are demoralized. All their plans for the things they wanted to accomplish at each of their agencies and departments, they will not be able to do anything like it. It will make government less effective, less efficient for the remainder of this year and on into the next.
All right. Thanks to our guests, Mark Pfeifle, Jeremy Mayer and David Bolger. And thank you too for watching. You can see the programme again anytime by visiting our website, aljazeera.com. And for further discussion, go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can also join the conversation on X. We are at AJ Inside Story. From me, Bernard Smith, and the entire team here, bye for now.